What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips where you already know we get it in. But before we get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel and it's all because of you. And for that, I could say I'm very humbled, man, and I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. So I was asked a question a long time ago. Who's the most popular or the most recognizable, person within the Norteno movement? Who's the most recognized Norteno? Now, when it comes to Norteno, man, that's a street gang member. That's someone who's, part of a barrio from Northern California that's recognized for the work he's put in, or not even necessarily for the work he's put in. You could be known as a rapper, you could be known as an actor, whatever. When I got involved, I was into the fullest. I felt that, the cause needed me. I was another piece of the puzzle. I was going to put in the work, and I got addicted to it. I got addicted to, that recognition I was getting from my own homeboys, or when I went, to different cities and homeboys are like, oh, that's the homie right there. Oh, yeah, he's with the program. Just that little bit right there, I felt was worth sacrificing my life. I felt it was worth, putting in that work and fighting the adversaries and the opposition. Just that. I was addicted to the thrill. Some people get addicted to the money or the women or the cars or the fame or the clout. And I guess that was one form of clout. I was addicted to the recognition and the respect. And even in some cases, the fear that it garnered me. But I understood and I knew that it was just a small circle. From here to maybe Modesto is where I was recognized. From Merced to Modesto. It wasn't like people knew about me worldwide or I was nationally known. I was confined to that box because I put myself in that box. But that was enough for me. That was enough for me. As long as people in Northern California understood that I was with the program, I was with the business, I was willing to go and do what I had to do for the homies. That's all I needed, I guess, or that's all I thought I needed. But there are other people, whether it's North or South, that are more so recognized, not for the work that they put in, but more so for who they are. And I noticed like nowadays with a lot of these rappers, a lot of these guys are just rappers. They haven't really been anywhere, haven't been behind those walls or put in any work. A lot of them have been just to a level 2 yard. But people automatically flock to them because, they look the part. They dress the part. They act the part. And, rappers have always done that from the beginning of time. They've always, talked about the streets or utilized, stories or just because they could rap, they tell other people's stories. They live. It's all secondhand information for the most part, and people will flock to that. Oh man, the homie's down. He's down. Why is he down? Because he says he's down, or do other people vouch for him, certify that and say he's down? See, the streets talk. I learned that a long time ago. In order to be verified, the streets will have to talk. The streets will let you know exactly who that individual is or who he isn't. That's like a lot of people back in the days. Hey, Dr. Dre, he's that one. Just because he can make some good beats and produce some good music doesn't mean he's a real life gangster just because he does gangster rap. It takes a little bit to know a lot of it. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that this guy's a certified gangster. But people like the image. It's always been like that. It's going to continue to be like that. If you throw a few gold chains on, cut your hair bald, get a few tattoos on your face, you're him. You're him if you're able to convince people you're him. And if you're not, well, then that's on you. Okay, so I was asked, who's the most recognizable Norteno ever to come from the Northern movement? And I could say that'd probably be Woodie. Okay, and this is the reason why. Woodie, for those of you that have never listened to him, he was probably the best Northern California rapper ever to come out of Northern California besides, I'd say, Pollo Loco. I'd say him and Pollo Loco for me are right here, neck and neck. But he was definitely well recognized in Northern California, well respected. And no one had really anything bad to say about him. Now, there's been a lot of things brought up in these last few years since he's passed, where a lot of people are saying, hey, maybe he was involved in certain crimes, man, and he could have helped people out of prison and this and that. Hey, but to each man their own. He marches and he stomps to his own beat, or he did. He's passed now. He's not there, but his spirit, his legacy, what he left behind will forever be forward. He'll forever be recognized and probably be the most popular Norteno ever from Northern California. And here's the cold twist in it, was he was a white man. Okay, this goes to show you it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, doesn't matter what gang or group you're from. If you're respected, if you're feared, if you're acknowledged, if you're loved, then pigmentation and color doesn't play into it. That doesn't matter. You know, I've had a lot of black homeboys that, believe it or not, were way downer than my Mexican homeboys. I've had a lot of white homeboys that I didn't see color. I was colorblind to the fact. I knew that these guys were dedicated to the Northern cause. I knew that these guys were dedicated to put in the work. And we didn't trip off color or ethnicity. Anybody who was worthy of the cause. Now, it always tripped me out on those that tried to act like they were a raza and not recognize who they really were and didn't embrace that. I didn't like that. I've never liked that. Be who you are. Proud to be proud of who you are. Be proud of it. Never forget where you come from. You know, never forget about the roaches, the chanclas, and the food stamps. Never forget, brother, about the coffee and the meatloaf. Don't forget about the chicken and Louisiana hot sauce. Don't forget where you come from, but you can be part of your environment and adapt to whatever you want to. That's period. Now, when it came to Woodie, he grew up in Northern California. He grew up in a Norteno barrio. He gravitated for whatever reason to that cause. You know, whether it be your friends in school, and sometimes that's just the way it is. You know, people don't, they say, oh, it's all about your environment and how you grow up. And absolutely it is. Tremendously, I will say that's the right answer. You know, I'll stamp that. It is. It's where you grow up. You know, if you're a brother and your family moves, your mother doesn't have much money, your father doesn't have much money, and you guys live in the projects, the barrio, and it's predominantly Mexicans, well, you're going to grow up with Mexican friends. You're going to go to school with Mexican friends, and a lot of that culture you're going to learn, and it's going to impact your life. And whether you choose to run with that because this is what your friends are doing, that's on you. And the same goes for a Mexican that grows up in a Crip neighborhood or a Blood neighborhood or even Kumis in the Bay Area. They're going to adapt to their friends. It's what, you know, there's a lot of followers in this world. A lot of us like to follow without thinking we're followers. That label of followers, we don't like. Nobody likes it, you know, but it's the truth. We all follow the trends. We follow the music. We follow the TikTok. We follow things in life, and it doesn't mean we're a poop button. We can't be leaders or we can't make our own decisions. It just is the thing to do. It's always been like that, and it's going to continue to be like that. That's the world we live in. The world keeps spinning. It follows itself, and we're right there behind it. Facts. So Woodie grew up in a predominantly Mexicano neighborhood. Okay, the Bay Area is different from any place in the world. Okay, Antioch is considered the Bay. It's part of the Bay. It's not too far from Vallejo and other cities, man, so it's considered North Bay. Antioch has always been known for gangbanging and dope. And that runs hand in hand. You know, it used to be where gangbangers, back in my days, man, we looked down upon people that were dope fiends. We clowned cluckers. We clowned what we called paciencias, patients. We used to be the doctors prescribing the medicine, and they used to be the patients. We would clown crackheads. We would make fun of, you know, people that were going through a struggle. And then we started to realize as we got older, we started to go through that same struggle because somewhere along the line, it crossed over to being, it became party drugs at first, and then it became cool to do it. And then a lot of us lost our grip on reality and got involved heavily in the dope game, whether it was slanging or using, and there wasn't much of a difference. Okay. Everybody started to indulge, get high on their own supply. And there became a lot of people that became chemically dependent. So it no longer was a case where we were clowning, and now became a case where we were like, oh shit, we're part of that movement, right? And I think every barrio throughout Northern and Southern California has went through that. You all have homeboys that are considered dope fiends. And you'll sit there and be like, damn, homeboy's a fucking fiend, right? But late night, you're in the garage with the homeboys trying to fucking look out the fucking, you know, window of the garage. That's just how it is. Now, you know, Antioch in the Bay was known for a lot of dope and a lot of gangs. And in the era that Woodie grew up in, there was a lot of work being put in. There was a lot of establishment going on of Southsiders in Northern California. So there was a lot of war. There was still red on red going on, meaning there was still Norteño barrios fighting other Norteño barrios, city versus city, climate versus climate. Everybody was gang banged out. See, in the 90s, the only difference from the 90s, and this is why I speak on the 90s, and a lot of people do, of that era, it was a beautiful era, but it was a dangerous era. Okay, we had the best music, a lot of sports going on. We had Mike Tyson, we had Michael Jordan, we had Michael Jack, right? We had all these great artists in the industry and great sports people and some of the best to ever do it in our era. So a lot of us are privileged to have watched that. But a lot of us weren't able to pay attention to that because we were too busy in them streets gangbanging, because there was also a movement going on them streets, and that was gangbanging. Everybody was trying to establish for them and theirs. Okay, that's when North and South was probably at its height. When I say North and South, I mean Norteños and Southsiders, Sureños. They were going at it in Northern California. There was a lot of Southsiders gangs being established, ones that were already around and others that were trying to be established, and they were going for a takeover, basically. And so there was a lot of North and South. There was a lot of people involved in the dope game getting locked up. So a lot of the homeboys in my era were doing a lot of time. I was in the youth authority throughout the whole 90s, so I missed that. But I got there towards the very end, 96, 97, 98, 99, and I could tell you, man, ain't shit changed. It was still popping. It was on and cracking. In fact, we were a little bit older now, so it was getting a little bit more dangerous. Now, Woodie grew up in that same area. He grew up in that same timeline of what was going on. So he was known in his city to put in that work. He was known to be a centerpiece in his barrio and one of them dudes that was really about the action. Okay, somewhere along the line in the late 90s and 2000s, that's when a lot of Mexicans, Chicanos, decided to fucking try their hand in the rap scene. And we see how it is now. There's so much drama that goes on in the hip hop scene and the rap scene, especially in California, man. With Mexicans, it's an ugly situation. But at the same time, Mexicans decided to throw their hat in the brass ring, Chicanos specifically. Now, there was Chicano rappers, Proper Dose, and then you had Lighter Shade of Brown, and you had Kid Frost, and, you know, other Mexican rappers that were doing it. You know, Darkroom Familia was starting to establish in the mid-90s and do their thing. But the city of Antioch, you know, had a champion. They had someone who could rap, and he just happened to be a white man from a Northern California gang. Okay? Now, I've always told people it's a thin line between the hip hop game and the streets, the barrio. You got to be able to play that shit to a T. You got to be able to do that shit smooth. You know, you can't go out there and put in work and do dirt and then rap about it. Albeit it sounds cool, true life stories. But there's everybody watches, everybody listens. You know, there's been plenty of rappers that got caught up, especially in the 90s, behind rap lyrics. People like X-Rated, who ended up doing 20 plus years because of lyrics he put in his song. People like Big Lurch, man, who got caught up because he did a crime and then talked about it. You know, a lot of these rappers, you only rap on what you see or what you know. So a lot of them will put, you know, the true life stories into their music and it gets them. Well, Woodie was one of those guys, but he was able to play the game smooth because when you're raised or brought up in a Northern fashion, you're educated. Education is pushed tremendously. So he was educated enough to say a few things in his songs, but leave some question marks, right? Maybe so, maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. Okay, but on the streets, the people knew exactly what he was about. And as his legend grew within the rap industry and what he talked about, because he was one of the first homeboys that was literally pushing that Norteño shit. Okay, he was one of the first homeboys that brought his whole team with him and would do, you know, rap concerts at car shows and auditoriums and certain little places. And it was the first time that we were really seeing the Norteño movement on stage. And it made a whole bunch of homeboys, especially from the Valley and the Bay, proud. We were finally on the map. See, I'm sure the Southsiders felt the same way. You know, with like High Power Records and certain other, you know, rap groups that were doing their thing in Vatos. They were representing their blue paños. They were putting it on for the Sul. They were letting people know exactly, you know, shouting their barrios out. See, prior to them dates, people didn't do that. Gangster rap was just, you know, kind of a roundabout way. You never heard people really talking about Crips or Bloods or any of that. You know, gangster godfathers like NWA made sure that they fucking distinguished themselves from all that. They never hollered Bloods or Crips. There was always talk, hey, Eazy-E might be from Kelly Park or he might be a Crip or wherever he was from. But he never said that in his music. But slowly but surely with the 90s, man, that, you know, you were recognized more so by the group or the entity that you were involved in. So when we first started to see Woodie really shout it out and really put it on, his legend grew. And not only that, but real people that happened to, you know, meet him or talk to him or hang out with them would recognize and tell you, I first and foremost got to meet him. I got to kick it with him. I'll tell you, he was one of the most humble dudes, just one of the most coolest people that I ever met, man. Educated, laced up, and was really trying to push his music, was a conspiracy theorist, was really into anti-government, anti-establishment, anti all that, and was for the homeboys first and foremost. His priority was, of course, making his music and getting his bag. But at the same time, that wasn't even going to come before, you know, the Northern cause. That's where he was at with his. And he pushed that in every song. So his legend grew. So with that, you know, even to this day, Woodie is still recognized and is probably the most popular Norteño that you'll ever hear about. Now, even nowadays, you still hear about him. And there's other rappers like Big Tone. And of course, now you have bands from Santa Rosa, Acito, Young Iggs, GB. I mean, all these rappers that are continuing in the footsteps. But if you ask any of them in an interview, they always mention Woodie's name. It always falls back to him being one of the innovators. And this, you know, he set the bar high. He set the bar for the Northern California movement in the rap game. That's true, right? So how did he become the most recognized Norteño? I think the rap had a lot to do with it. I think, you know, the era that he grew up in, I think the work he was known for putting in, because believe me, you could be a rapper, you could be all that, and there's always going to be someone who will say, Holmes, this Vato ain't really about that shit. He's just talking about it. You know, you never heard those rumors with Woodie. I mean, there would be a few of his personal enemies, people from his area that didn't like him just because that would talk that high-powered shit. But for the most part, even the opposition recognized him for his merits, recognized him for what he was doing. And he was known. You know, when I met him, I could tell you, like I said, very humble, very cool dude. But he had that look in his eyes. That look that I remember and I recognize from the Youth Authority. See, I would meet different elements of Norteños. I would meet homeboys that were striving, trying to be somebody within the movement, that were trying to really fucking get it at all costs. They had a blank look in their eye. They had a look in their eye like they were soulless. I was one of them guys. I understood. Didn't matter what anyone said. Didn't matter if we thought we were confused or someone else told us we were confused. There was nothing anybody could tell us to detour us from what we truly believed in. And then there were those that were just doing time, you know, just kicking back, just wanting to hang out with the people. And those guys were shunned, and eventually their filth was found out and they were pushed to the side. You know, I remember we would throw juntas, and those that were with the program would be there, and those who weren't were on the outside looking in, and they knew what time it was, but they didn't rock the boat because they didn't want to be, categorized as that, even though they knew they were that. You know, there's some people that are fully dedicated, and there's some people that are not. And eventually over time, you're going to find out just how deep your dedication is. I can tell you first and foremost, Woodie was one of those guys. You know, it's funny how him being white is always talked about. Oh yeah, the rapper Woodie, Northern California, but he's a white guy. What does that have to do with anything? You know, the only thing that I see is how a white man was able to become something that bigger than just an ethnicity or skin pigmentation or a color. He became a soldado within a movement that he truly believed in. Now, how his life ended and what happened is always going to be a mystery. Whether he took his life, his own life, whether he was going through some things. Hey, man, he was a real life motherfucker. We go through real life shit. You know, everybody is on different levels in life. Some people are happy the life they're living. Some people are cool with the meager things, with not a lot of it, but they're just good with what they got. There's some people that are striving and continue to push forward because they want more and more and more. And there's some people that don't have it, but will fake, like they'll fake it till they make it. They'll fake it like they have it. There's different types of people everywhere, you know, but everyone's going through some real life shit. The bills don't stop, you know, the roaches don't stop crawling. You know, the food stamps don't stop spending. There's a lot of real life shit you have to go through. And if you grew up in a barrio, a neighborhood, the projects, the ghetto, any of that, then you understand the hardships. You understand the oppression. You understand the struggle. And that goes for every ethnicity, because I've met white people that grew up in the trailer parks or in the projects. I've met Mexicans, blacks, everybody that have went through their shit, man. We're all products of our environment. So we could all understand the adaptability to having nada, man, and trying to get it. It's a cutthroat world and everyone's trying to get it. And motherfuckers will step on your toes and stand on your knuckle bones to get that. Period. It's the way it is. Woodie comes from that. He comes from not a lot. So for him to be the most recognized Norteño has always boggled my mind, but I understand why. You know, and I've met him, so I understand why. You know, he wasn't a character. He wasn't fake. He wasn't fraudulent. He was a real homie. He was really about that, and he deserves his flowers. He deserves his accolades. He deserves the fact and the representation, and for people to know that he was the one, the very first, one of the very first ones, not the very first one, but one of the very first ones, along with Speedy Loke and several others, that put the Norteno rap scene on the map. That's why homage is paid to him. That's why there's murals of him in the Bay. That's why he's recognized as a legend from the Bay, because he truly deserves that crown. And that's for reals, and that's a fact. So when people ask me, how did a white man become the most known Norteno? It's because of who he is. It's because of the respect that he earned. It's because of the work that he put in. And of course, there's always going to be mystery. He's always going to be shrouded in mystery. You know, if he was involved in that crime that ultimately sent Snoop to prison for life, there's going to be people that feel some type of way about him. Hey, he should have spoke up. He should have got him a lawyer. He should have did this. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different things. Unless you're living in that man's shoes, you don't know. And then there's always going to be people, well, you know, he took his own life. He was weak. He was this. You know, we don't know ultimately what happened. You know, it seems like when rappers die, you know, Pac and Nips and Nipsey and Biggie and all these rappers, people like to say, oh man, it was a conspiracy theory. The CIA took them out, or this entity took them out, or their voices were they were getting too strong, or, you know, there's always a conspiracy theory. Well, hey, let's throw one more in there. Maybe fucking Woodie was doing too much. You know, maybe someone caught him slipping behind the scenes. We'll never know. But what we'll know for sure is what he did for the Norteno movement as far as the rap scene, man, cannot be repeated, cannot be outdone, cannot be undone. So yes, man, when it comes to the question the person asked me, how did a white man become the most popular Norteno ever? By the work he put in, man. That shows you we're all the same as gente. Doesn't matter where you're from, man. It matters the name, the reputation that you uphold to the fullest. That's all that matters. Anyways, with that being said, I hope I answered that question. Again, there's so many stories about Woodie, you know, and his music and his legacy that he left behind. But all I could tell you from someone who was really in the mix is that guy had a voice. That guy was smart. He was intelligent. And I would only hope that these youngsters that are in the rap scene now that are carrying that torch, Holmes, know how to fucking keep that flame lit. Because, you know, people that are the forefathers or set the foundation for certain movements, you know, and he did that for Northern California rap. You know, you don't want him turning in his grave, man, because you disrespect his legacy. You know, change is always good. Advancement demands change. That's a true fucking lyric right there. That's true. I live by that creed too. Advancement demands change. Whether I'm active or non-active, man, I still, you know, change my shit every day so I advance within the game. But I'll tell you this, you know, he's one of the founding guys, at least on the streets, at a street level, to do that. Now, people say, hey, you know, Woodie was never in prison like that. He never was really part of that, bro. Being in prison and being a part of a certain fucking, you know, having certain status doesn't make you the hardest person in the world. It just makes you a person that has to go through some more shit. There's different levels to this. But as far as the street establishment, the rap game, that man did that. Put some flowers next to his name. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive to struggle, the struggle to strive. I got banger upon banger giving bangers piggyback rides. Are you guys ready for part 2 of Superwood? That's coming. Are you guys ready for part 4 of Super Norteno? Well, that's coming too. Show! Thumbs up, thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and struggle, and strive for what I truly believe in. And that's the betterment of all people, man. This is the gun. Bang, bang.